Hey friends, Gary here, the Codfather, and today I'm going to talk to you about card conditioning. If you've had problems with it in the past, today you'll have no worries because we're going to go over some things about what it is, why it's important, and a couple of steps on how to make it easier. Let's dive in. All right, what is card conditioning? Well, card conditioning is where you take the flaws of a card and from those flaws, you evaluate how badly they affect the card's value. And that can be anything from super tiny, like little minute scratches, dings, or dents, to anything large, like a complete bend or even a tear in the card, from those things that you've been doing with the cards, such as playing with them and using them for your bicycle spokes.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Conditioning a card actually kind of helps determine what its real value is. And we're talking about value in terms of cash, not rubies or peanuts here, okay? So if you have taken that half-torn base set Charizard that you opened in 1999 from an original pack, and you think it's worth $10,000, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're going to be greatly disappointed because there is no such thing as intrinsic value when it comes to valuing a card or collectible. So valuing a card is actually really important because it offers us what that market price would be for that card, or even what the value of the card is. And there's a term out there that's called minty. And no, I'm not talking minty fresh.
Detect a hint of minty freshness.
I'm talking minty as in how fresh that card is, how well preserved that card is from the moment it was pulled from the pack. It should be just about as minty as it was if it was inserted into the pack at the factory. And so when we talk about valuing a card, when we talk about the cost that's being driven on a card, what's actually providing that is how much that card is valued based on two things. It's based on the condition, which is the biggest one, what we're talking about here, and the desire of that card. I'll give you an example. If you're using the Umbreon alternate artwork from Evolving Skies, for example, like this one here, that card near mint could be anywhere between $350 and $500, and graded, that card skyrockets to close to $800 or $900. So depending on the condition of a card, whether we're talking you're getting it graded later, but we're really just talking about raw cards, that card can be worth a lot of money. And so today, I want to give you some things that are going to help you understand how to condition cards. Okay, so let's talk about conditioning cards. Well, conditioning cards is not hard. There are 5 levels. There's near mint, lightly played, moderately played, heavily played, and damaged. And I'll show you some examples here of what those cards would look like. But near mint, again, is that standard that you just pulled it out of the pack. Like it was literally given to you from the factory and you pulled it right out of the pack. And a lightly played card means it's lightly played, meaning that it's just got a little bit of things, maybe some light scratches, maybe on the edge wears just a little tiny bit. And we'll go over some of those things here in just a little bit about that. But that's lightly played. Moderately played is a little more heavier than lightly played, and that means that it's going to have a little bit more edge wear. Actually, it'll probably have a lot more edge wear. You may see some slight bends, some creases in the corners. Maybe there's a slight roller crease from where it was printed, something in that nature. Heavily played, buddy, those are absolutely almost near damage. Those things have been played a lot. They may be a lot looser. Sometimes the cards are not as rigid, and they're definitely going to have a lot of bends, tears, or even rips in the card. A damaged card is a card that's really no good. It's a card that is no longer valued at its highest level. And I'll show you an example here. But the damaged cards themselves are sometimes highly collectible. You'd be surprised that a base set Charizard that is considered damaged actually can go for upwards of 100, $150. And if you get it graded and it gets a PSA 1, wow, you're looking at maybe $250, $300 sometimes. Just depends on the buyer as well as the collector. PSA 1 cards are actually very valuable because of the damaged card, and a PSA 1 would be considered a damaged card. All right, let's talk about some 3 easy methods to getting conditioning right. Here we go. Use a standard. Okay, there's a standard out there, and I call it a market standard. Basically, all that means is that I'm taking a well-known preset of standards for near mint, lightly played, moderately played, heavily played, and damaged. I'm taking a standard and I'm applying it to my conditioning. The easiest one, my favorite, is TCG Player. Believe it or not, we use them for setting a market price on cards, but we don't typically like to use them for grading or even conditioning a card. So that's the problem for me, but I use them exclusively. In fact, if you go to my website, you'll see that I have a conditioning standard sheet on what a card would look like being conditioned at near mint to heavily played or even damaged. And I use TCG Player's method for doing so. This is important for me because I'm hoping it would be important for you only simply because of the fact that conditioning your cards and getting it right is important. It helps to set the value of a card, especially if you're looking to resell that card, or maybe you're trying to value your conditions of your card so you can have a good value of your collection. But TCG Player offers a really neat method here. They have a frequently asked questions article, an actual article based on this, and I'll link it down in the description below. And what that'll do is that actually gives you a really nice baseline overview of what light played or new mint or near mint or moderately played cards would look like and what the factors are and how you would value that out. If you dig a little deeper in that article, you'll actually find a nice little PDF that a lot of sellers should be using, and I use it exclusively for all of my card conditioning needs. That actual PDF will describe to you in full detail about each condition standard, what they look for, what's considered near mint, and what's not. Here's the funny thing about this. Using a conditioning standard means it's going to help you save a lot of time when you go to condition your cards because you'll know what to look for instantly. You'll be able to get your value out of that. But you're going to have a lot of problems with this process because a lot of people see different standards differently. Okay, that means they have a lot of opinion behind it. And when they have a lot of opinion, that just simply means that a near mint card could be looking like lightly played. The problem is that TCG Player actually tells you that it's okay for a near mint card to have up to 3 points of intersection, which means if there's a small ding in the corner, some light surface wear, and a scratch, that's considered near mint. And within TCG Player standards, that's an okay card to sell at near mint, where other people would argue that's lightly played and I need the card value down lower so I can then buy it. The next one is called the light trick. And this is a cool one. I'm sure you've done this before. We've all got a holo card before, right? You've got that beautiful Charizard 199 from Pokemon 151. You got this beautiful card, and all you're doing is you're just holding it and you're shimmering it back and forth in light, kind of like this example here that I'm showing you now. And you're using that light to actually accentuate the holo and see the pattern and maybe even see how much of that glare is coming off that holo, and it's activating the holo, right? And the light does that. That's called light scanning. And so this light trick that I use is how I go about making sure that I'm conditioning my cards correctly. By using the light trick, you can actually begin to see the holo and all of the dings, dangs, and don'ts of the card that are happening as you move that card back and forth. We're using the light to scan the card. So in scanning the card back and forth, we'll get an idea as to what's available. And you can do this on both sides of the card. It does actually manifest quite a lot of stuff. I've done this when I'm conditioning cards. Not only that, but when I'm cleaning cards, I'll do the same thing. And I'll actually go ahead and rock that card back and forth, up and down, forward, backwards, like a little baby. And I'll do that so that way I can see if there's any smudging or if there's any deep scratches or maybe there's any kind of like dings or dents, or sometimes there's like some edge wear that I can tell just by that, because sometimes the holos, like the new Scarlet Violet holos, they're a little weird on the outside because of the border holo. You have to kind of move it around too to see if you can see those. And so that's an important piece of that. So you want to make sure that you're using the light scan trick, the light trick, to condition your cards properly, and that'll give you a better idea. It's a cheap, easy method. All right, we all do it. You all have a light source. It doesn't have to be super bright, and it actually works more effective if you're not using a super light over top of everything. If you're using the light, just a single light source, and you're scanning the card, you'll be able to see that right away really easily with no problem. And this is really good for holos, especially the old version holos, like in your base sets, Jungle, Team Rocket, so forth and so on. Okay, the newer holos are a little more difficult to see it, but the light scan trick really works well when you're conditioning a card. And you'll do that from time to time. Just go back and forth, look at the card, and see if you can't find any flaw, ding, or dents in it, and that'll help you condition it. The last one is maybe a little controversial, but I like to err on the side of safety and caution more so than I like to err on making the money or valuing my collection at a higher value than what it really could be. And that's to go ahead and, when in doubt, condition lower. Listen, if you're a reseller, I totally understand. We're out to make money because obviously that's what we do as resellers, right? I resell on TCG Player all the time. I resell through eBay. I resell through TikTok. I got all these places that I resell through. So I understand the whole point of being that. And one day, hopefully, I'll be able to open up my own card shop and hobby store where I live, an actual brick and mortar. I mean, we'll get into that in another video. But in the time being, conditioning your cards the right way is actually going to help you in the long term. And if you choose to condition your card at a lower condition, it actually saves you a lot of headaches.
I'm kind of getting a headache, and it's not because of you.
Here's the reason I suggest this. First and foremost is because conditioning your cards and getting the most value is important, but also if you're reselling the card, it's easier for you to condition the card when it's lower. So if you're in doubt of what a condition of a card really is, go ahead and mark it at the one you really think. If you're just questioning it, Like you're like, ah, this looks near mint, but it could be lightly played, and you're going to resell that card, go ahead and mark it lightly played. It only makes sense to do that because you do not want to have a headache down the road. Now, I will tell you that if a card is bordering on that near mint status and you're like, yeah, this could pass as near mint, I think this could be near mint, it's okay to go ahead and put it as near mint. In fact, that's fine. And if you're using the standards like we talked about before, such as TCG Players or Troll and Toad or somebody else's, and you're using the standards and you're looking at that, you always have a backup guarantee that you condition the card according to what you saw. And then you're able to actually accurately describe the card with no problems. You'll see some of these problems occur, especially like through eBay, where you might put NM or near mint or even mint, and somebody might come back and say, this card's not mint. And they may even have receipts to show that it's not. So you got to be careful with that. And if you clearly highlight the fact that you're using a standard in our previous tips, then this will help avoid that problem, okay? So I'm also telling you, by no means do I think that you should take your near mint 1999 Charizard from base set and sell it for anything less than near mint, okay? What I am telling you is that condition matters. And if you are going to sell the card, condition it properly. And if you're afraid that it's not going to sell or you're going to get hit with some sort of feedback about it, condition it a little lower and you'll be okay. All right, friends, well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching my videos. It's an honor and a pleasure. And remember, you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Talk to you later.